Hello, hello, everyone. It is Kenyon here, Basketball Rewind, and I am joined by Beyond the Locker Room, Coach Roach, the usual suspects. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Good.
Lovely weather we're having these days.
It is actually. Well, I was just outside not that long ago, so
And we're
uh,
getting close to March Madness.
we are. We're slowly getting there. We're not that far away. Kind of going back to our regularly scheduled programming here, and we're gonna go back to good, bad, and ugly for the Raptors. Maybe talk a little bit of NBA in terms of the playoff landscape as we continue to get closer and closer to April as well. Because that's just how time works. So we'll start with the good. You know what? I'm going to start with the good. The Raptors are one win away from a pizza party. Now,
A pizza party. Was it supposed to be dinner? Like,
it went from dinner to getting cheaper because we don't know Darko's salary. Um, not only did they win two games in a row, which is nice, once against the Nets, once against the Atlanta Hawks, we saw improved play coming out of the break from the team at large, at least, especially on the offensive end. Now, these two teams are not necessarily good markers of success in terms of, we're literally the battle of the mid teams at best. So I do not think that this is, I think people will live game to game and be like, "Oh, we're ready." It's the Hawks, people, and it is the Nets. But we did get two legitimate wins. I don't think I expected two legitimate wins. I expected one. So we are on our way. I hope that we can get to just below the play in or even the play in if possible. And with that being said, I'll also add one other thing. Trae Young is now out for, I believe, 3 or 4 weeks. So things might get a little interesting. As Coach said earlier in our group thing, so you're telling me I got a chance.
Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance.
that's what Victoria Rowell. That in this case is Victoria Rowell who he's talking to.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Beyond, I'll start with you. Good for this week. Anything that you saw? We can get to individual players, of course, later on. But yeah,
Well, geez, well, you just snuffed me out because that's what I was going to do.
hey, go for it. Go for it.
Well, you know what? I'll give the inspired play in this case I've seen coming out of the All Star break. Kind of like
Yes,
sometimes you see of
I
one
know.
Scott Barnes.
Yes,
I think he's been very assertive on offense. You know, looking for his offense, looking to attack more. So that's been good to see. Looking to be a little bit more aggressive. And his demeanor overall, I like what And sometimes these things seem like frivolous. Sometimes I think people don't get these things when you have all star teams or even Olympic teams or national teams, or even you get invited for for as the what do you call the team in this case here that kind of plays
oh, the
against
select team, you mean?
teams. Those type of things they matter, man. They matter in this case as far as where you sit, as far as I guess the NBA hierarchy or the international player hierarchy. It matters a lot in this case of being around other guys that you find successful or other successful people. Like they always say this in this case here. Take golf in this case. They always say this all the time that if you want to improve, you should play with players better than you if you can, if you really want to improve. Right?
Yes.
It's the same type of mindset here. Him being around some of these guys in this case can only be a good thing. So, how they handle their business, how they comport themselves, what they do in this case, before, after, during the games.
Especially
That
since it's a mixture of ages at the All Star. I
mhm.
think that's important too because you're seeing people who, like LeBron, where it's like he's there, it's a business trip, and then you see guys like Paolo who are, you know, basically in the same age bracket as Barnes and even Hallie, where you're able to have a little bit more fun and you can have a bit of both, which is I think good.
Right. Yeah, and you can observe and see how these greats handle their business, right? Giannis or LeBron or Durant, whoever. Like, so there is a spillover or carryover effect, and how long it lasts, who knows? But if he takes something away from it, from any intangibles, it's good to see that kind of coming into play for the games. I think overall he's had a good week.
Coach?
Scotty's been good. These two games out of the break. I'm just looking at numbers: 19 points, 8.5 rebounds, almost 7 assists. I think he's got 2 steals and a block. Like he's having an impact at both ends of the floor, especially in that Atlanta game. I really thought his defense towards the end of the game, helping out with the rim protection, it was good. He made some big baskets as well. He's starting to look more comfortable now in his role. Now it's just gonna be about consistency moving forward till the end of the year. He's just gonna know, yeah, he's probably number one on every team's scouting report. And this is eventually it's needed for his development. They sped it up quicker than I thought they were going to, but they just ripped the band-aid off, and this is what we got moving forward. So I think Trae Young's injury as well is going to be helpful to this team. It gives us more of a chance of trying to make the play-in. I'm a big proponent of them trying to get in the play-in for a variety of reasons. But Scotty certainly he's been good the last 2 games out of the All-Star break. I'm impressed with what I've seen. I think I think he was a plus 17 against Brooklyn. I think about a plus 6 against Atlanta. So in these 2 games, he's either been the best player in both games, or sorry, he was the best player by far on the floor against Brooklyn. And I think you can make an argument he was the best player against Atlanta, him or DeJounte Murray on the court.
Yeah, I definitely think that we talked about this before, where we said All-Star could go one of two ways. I don't know how in depth we went on the pod, but I think the notion was either it could go to his head and it could be bad, or the alternative is rubbing shoulders is good. I think so far we've seen that he's come out of the break, especially with how he went into the break with a little bit of, call it turmoil, getting whooped by, Wembanyama, also having questions about certain
It's professional.
characteristics that were presenting themselves on court on a consistent basis, and then coming out of that kind of looking a little bit different. In some ways, this is exactly what you want from him and what I expected from him coming into the year. If he just does this every single game, more or less, obviously not every single game you're going to be locked in, but say out of the next 10 games, if he plays like this 8 or 9, that's what you want, especially now that you are an all-star. That's what the expectation should be if you're going to be taking that leap into the next echelon of players, or so to speak. So that was a really good thing. Obviously, I already gave my good, but another thing is that obviously the team overall gelling together, but I will also say Gradey, yeah, he's been on one, to put it simply. And I think the thing is that he's showing that he's, again, not just a shooter. We've talked about this throughout the year, whether it was early on where we said, okay, yeah, the shot's not working, but he does so many of the little things. But now that the shot's really hitting, it's opening up. You're seeing the little things that he does in a much more pronounced way because it's opening up the rest of his game. And in some ways, you could see that his presence on the court makes a difference. He's seen on the court for sure. Not everyone who plays, you notice them on the court. Gradey is a player that you notice his presence on the court. Before I continue on to the bad, before we get to ugly, is there anything that you guys want to talk about in terms of Gradey or even anyone else?
Well, Grady's looked fantastic. He's kind of becoming the player that at least I thought he could be, and it's really strange, like how the ramp up has happened with him. It's been a much more, I would say, what's the word I look for? Not untraditional way he's reached this point. Let's put it that way. But I know it's been great.
Brady's been a bust. I don't know what you guys are talking about at all.
Yeah, exactly.
No, look, Brady, I think since it's the new year, if I'm correct, he's shooting around 45% from free. I'm guessing that makes you one of the top 3-point shooters in the game since the new year. And I'm just looking at something that Samson had posted as well. He's getting up about 4 attempts, so 4 threes each night, roughly in under 20 minutes. It's good. But he's also 18 of 24 at the rim in that same time frame in the last 16 games, which is over 60% at the rim. That's really, really good from Grady. He's just becoming more comfortable. I keep seeing it online with some of the pictures that get posted, like, he's becoming more comfortable. The shot looks good. He's just finding his spots on the floor. He's showing that he's more than just a 3-point shooter. And I think, when back in the summer of last year or early part of the spring, we had kind of mentioned how he's a pretty good athlete, and he's 6'7". I think we're starting to see more than just him shooting. I know Beyond had made the comparison of the white Klay Thompson, which I really like. I think it's pretty cool. And and we know Klay for years. I'm not so much putting that comparison on Grady, but we already know Klay could really shoot the basketball. In my opinion, he's the best shooting mechanics ever. Him and Steph. But Brady's got that kind of athleticism that Klay had for a number of years as well. So we'll see moving forward what this is going to look like. But it's great the way he's been playing. Been a big help, sure.
Well, I definitely think he's showing that. I posted this actually. So 1 or 0 dribbles. He's shooting like 43% from deep. That sounds like Klay. Now I compare him a little bit more to someone that I would say is a little bit higher than Klay, which is Reggie, just because of the off-ball ability and stuff like that. But Klay's not a bad comp either. I just think that he has a little bit of a better handle than Klay. But I think I like the comparison either way. Either way, he's one that he came into the league and he was talking to the amazing Taylor Rooks, and he was saying, I want to be remembered as one of the next shooters when people think of great shooters. And that was his goal coming in.
Can I ask you guys a question before you move on?
Mm-hmm.
This keeps coming up, and I hear from people. Good Grady start moving forward
This season or next?
this season?
He's better. It's a tough question because it depends on how you're manning and who you're putting as a collection of players on the second unit. Because if he continues to play like this, he might play his way into being a floor raiser. And in a sense, you might even want him on the second unit for now to help raise that unit, depending on how Gary is. Yeah. I'll let Beyond go from there.
Yeah, we know what the equation is the other way. So, like, I mean, if Gary's going to be here, you might as well use Gary to his fullest extent, which means he should start. What Grady has proven in this case here, Grady can play fine off the bench, something that Gary has proven he cannot do in this league.
Correct.
So let's not, once all I'm concerned about what Grady is, Grady gets the play with the right group, and Grady gets the amount of minutes. If I see Grady get 25 plus minutes a night, I'm straight with that. I hope by the end of the year it gets up to closer to 30, but if it's like 25 night, 26, I'm fine with that. If he and Gary are splitting that time, that's fine. I mean, I would like to see, I start to see it a little bit. I think he's going to be out there a lot more in crunch time, because I think right now you're seeing that he's not a liability on defense on crunch time. I mean, what was fascinating to watch, I don't usually watch these too often, so I'm going to say up front, like, I did not watch the entire Atlanta game. I was out, but I watched the 30-minute version of it. And sometimes, obviously, they'll pick certain moments of the game of certain key points. And they had picked a couple of them, obviously some Grady offensively, but there are a couple of them they picked where Grady was moving and the defensive ones where Grady was kind of just in the right spots to cover for other guys and get some steals and also some rebounds where it's like, he just instinctively knows where to be. And that's something that this team is like had a lot of issues with the last couple of years of having instinctive guys and know what to do. Like, it's like they don't have a lot of guys that are instinctive. Like he's like, oh, I'm going to slide down here on the weak side to box out this dude. Yeah, good idea. A lot of guys are sitting there watching here with a bag of popcorn as the guy sitting down there on the offside, the weak side, getting the putback. It's basic things like that where it's like, oh, I want to actually coach that for this guy and tell him to come down from your spot to box that dude out. He just knows it. Okay, it's great to see. So things like that, just watching the 30-minute one, it's like, oh, dang, he knows how to. I know it's another thing too. everyone talked about like deflections, which is something that was there from day one. Even when he was shooting bad, he's always getting his hands on the ball.
Even in the summer league, he had really good hands.
Exactly. One of the things though he's very good at too that people don't talk enough about, he's good at reading passing lanes. And he has had a few times in that Atlanta game where Atlanta wanted to do their typical pick and roll, and he was sliding in there for that roll man, therefore making a very hard pass to make or having to kick it out for the three, which is probably what they didn't want to do. And he found a way to get back as well too. So, yeah, I you know, man, Gradey, you know, that's my man. So I'm happy to see that he's playing well.
Yeah, I'm fine with him off the bench for the rest of the year. That 25 minutes per game. I think just having his confidence raised is the biggest thing right now. And if he's getting 25 minutes a night, that's reps. So you're fine there. Maybe next season, that's certainly a question to entertain about him putting in the starting lineup. It's not going to shock me, depending on what they do in the offseason, if he does move into the lineup. But for now, leave him in the rotation. Bring him in off the bench. He's been really good. Keep his confidence up. Just turned 20.
Right.
Yeah, there's like two plays that I really want to talk about. So the first one with Gradey, to your point beyond, I think IQ was actually driving baseline, and Grady's in the corner, or he actually slid over to the corner. I believe Gary was a little bit at the break and then shifted a little bit over closer to the top of the arc. And Gradey looks at IQ and he's pointing. I mean, I'm mirrored, so he's pointing this way. And he's pointing towards Gary. And he's like, that's the correct pass. I'll probably put this on screen for people. But Gary was wide open. IQ missed that play. He passed it to Gradey. Now, the pass wasn't the best, over on the side, so he had to kind of grab it and then set himself. And by the time he was there, the pass was still there, but it was kind of closer. It wouldn't have been as effective as an advantage. But the fact that he could see that ahead of his own point guard, or one of the point guards on this team, for whatever it's worth, is impressive. And the fact that he's seeing it as a rookie, that's showing something to me. I think the other thing is that he had a couple tough finishes throughout the year. I was just watching some tape on him recently, and just some of the one where he switched it from one hand to the other mid-air with like 3 seconds down. Coach, you were talking about his confidence. I mean, he literally just, attacked a closeout by, I think, Sadiq Bey, and then he said, no, yank that back, right? And then step back right over him. Like, that is not an easy shot, and just drained it, went, the other way. And this is just me personally. I kind of like the fact that he doesn't overly celebrate either. He's just even Steven. Hits it, boom, let's go.
Well, I think we said something at the beginning. I mean, this might be something to go back and just kind of retweet this the episode we had when Gradey got drafted.
Yeah.
I think one of the things we said over the summer, the team was constituted. Obviously, Barrett and Quickly weren't here at the time. But I think we said that he arguably might end up being the second most talented offensive player in the team behind Seattle at the time.
At the time, yeah.
Now we look at the team that we have now. There's an argument to be made. Might be the most talented offensive player on the team.
So people are going to freak out at you, and I'm going to just explain exactly what you mean, because I don't disagree with you. You're talking about in terms of a floor of offense. Like, he's ahead of a lot of guys, to be honest, including Barnes, in terms of just like when he handles the ball and stuff like that, he's not losing the ball in transition.
I'm talking about shot making, folks.
Exactly. Because Barnes is right now, people don't realize, before we even get to the bad, we'll actually combine bad and ugly just to, because we're running a little bit late on that. But Barnes is doing what he's doing, and this is both the impressive thing, but also the work that he needs to get, put in to get to where people think that he can be, is that Barnes is doing a lot of this on just raw athletic ability, right? He's bigger, faster than most dudes in the NBA, especially when he gets ahead of steam. He's also stronger than the vast majority of guys in the NBA. He doesn't always know his strength. That's one thing coming out of the break, is I've noticed it. There's times when he would get the ball down low and he tried to lay it up. No, he's dunking that now, and it's like finally, there's no one in front of you. Just stop trying to
Right.
lay up the ball, just dunk it. I know you need a little bit of legs for that, but like he's been doing that all year. So I'm not buying the excuse of he's tired. I think it's just like a mentality shift has happened, which is good. Um but yeah, so I don't know. We probably talked out Grady.
Yeah, Grady, fill in there for all you Grady
there,
stands.
there you go, Reese report. Um, so with that being said, we're gonna move on to the bad, and we'll combine it with the ugly. So my bad right now and ugly, it has to do with a lot of Darko's rotations.
Mm-hmm.
It's just super easy to just combine those
Some
two.
things never change.
Some things do not ever change. Um, I know Chris is out of the rotation. I understand that decision. So that's what I will say there. But it's more like, okay, who's gonna start when RJ's out? Okay, randomly out of nowhere, Jordan Nwora. Then we're giving a 10-day guy, which I understand you only have 10 days to use the guy, but you're giving a 10-day guy reps before bringing in and trying out Javon Freeman Liberty, who has been balling out in like there's just a certain amount of reward that you want to give a guy, even just to showcase his talents to other teams on the NBA, right? It's there's a lot of questions that you will have of this roster moving beyond this year in terms of who's here, because you start thinking and who might be re-signed or kept or whatever, and you're like, and then you add the two incoming rookies for next year, more than likely there will be two. You wonder like how does all of this kind of fit together moving forward. It's not the biggest thing, but it is interesting. So I think he needs to be more like, there was times, I mean, Grady was like 8 of 13, and you're not going to close the game with him, and you're going to put Trent in instead. No offense to Trent, but like we've seen Darko do this time and time again. A guy will be hot, you feed the hot hand, you leave it in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I hear what you're saying. I take it one step further. Actually, like, I mean,
You want him
Darko,
off the team? No, I'm just kidding.
no, well,
No,
I'm
I'm
not
just
going that direction. Like,
yeah.
like, to be fair to Darko,
Mm.
this front office ain't make it easy for the dude.
No,
He hasn't made the decisions easy because, like,
he still walks around with the spreadsheet in his pocket. People, I'm serious. Look.
I asked you guys this offline, and I'm asking it now here online. What is the purpose of Bruce Brown at this point?
Thank you.
What the heck is he here for? He serves no purpose but eating up minutes of guys that, to your point, that should be getting those minutes. Bruce Brown's what we like to consider in this case in sports a luxury. When you have a good team,
I was gonna
Bruce
say
Brown is
that
what you
word.
have. When you have a team like ours, we don't have time for Bruce Browns of the world. That's what it comes down to. He's good. He wants to cut off the guys and do all the hustle stuff. Fantastic. That's great when you're trying to get winning plays to try to win a championship or a division, whatever case it would be. For our team, we need guys to get minutes to get better. We don't need Bruce Brown eating up 20 minutes a night. Who shoots 31% from three. Not great, not any great finisher. Just clogging things up and clogging up the rotation. Like like that's my biggest thing. I mean, I can't put that on Darko because he's making X amount of $1 million. He's probably after Barrett, he's probably making the most money on the team. So I can't put that on Darko. Can't have a 20-some-odd $1 million man sitting on the bench doing nothing. I mean, maybe a $12 million one because they're doing that with Boucher, but a 21, that's too far at that point.
Yeah. I mean, it. Bruce Brown is an interesting one because it's like, again, we're not saying he's a bad player, but it's just like there's developmental time that you're like. I'm looking right here in the Atlanta game. He played 31 minutes.
What minutes?
Like that's a lot of minutes for a guy that probably is not going to be on this team in the summer. I mean, they might keep him for the sake of it, but if I'll put it this way, if they keep him, it's because they're going to exercise the team option, right, and then try to trade him during the season as per usual.
Right now, here's the perspective for all these folks that you're grousing about this. Right, 2 weeks ago, these folks are freaking out about Dennis Schroeder. How come he got so much minutes? This and that. A man we signed for 2 years, by the way.
Yes.
They're giving hell about that.
Yes.
And this dude here, to your point, probably won't be here when July 1st comes. And
he was shocked that he was here.
Like, the first day was asking, well, who is going to get traded for? before he even landed and touched down Toronto, they're asking like,
Yes, like man, we can get Grimes, we can get this, we get
right.
yeah.
And so he was out there saying, "Oh, I had to fall back. My bad," because he didn't get the memo. He might be sticking around.
he almost pulled a Darko, or sorry, Drogic.
Yeah, pretty much, because he figured the same thing too. So like, this makes no sense to me. But like, this is the Raptors, so what can you say? That's all I say.
Yeah. Yeah, Bruce Brown, I know I've told you guys, I've tweeted a little bit. I've never understood the trade for Siakam. I think it was a terrible trade, quite honestly. I understand it, but I don't like it. Bruce Brown on this team, it just doesn't really make a ton of sense. I just see him out there doing a lot of random things and make not a whole lot of sense to what's going on in the game right now. And like Beyond said, he is a luxury to have in Denver. When I think I was speaking to you guys just before the trade deadline, and the rumors was Raptors want a first round pick and they want a player. And I'm thinking,
Didn't
if
get that.
that's what they want from this production from Bruce Brown, no team is going to give that up. Not with this Bruce Brown. They might see that if he was still in Denver doing that. You could think the Denver Bruce Brown who helped them win a championship, fair. The Bruce Brown I saw in Indiana and Toronto, no, not worth that.
But I mean, but to be fair to Bruce Brown, man, like Bruce Brown's one of those guys. In this case, you see him in every sport. They're fine when they're with better players.
Right.
Yes.
Like, Bruce Brown's never going to look at a mediocre or bad team.
Yeah,
right?
That's my point about Indiana
Yeah.
and Toronto.
Yeah, when he's playing with KD and Kyrie, looks half decent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like defensively, Bruce Brown is not able to like anchor your defense, and like he's going back to the floor and ceiling raiser conversation. He's a ceiling raiser. He's not a floor
luxury.
raiser.
Oh, he's an additive in this case here, man. You want to add a little spice to your dish, then fine. Yeah, Bruce Brown's your guy. That's about it. But like, if you're trying to get the actual main ingredients to actually make the dish, he ain't one of them.
and at that price point too, he's not. It's tough.
I'll just bring up the Darko thing for my ugly, or kind of my bad too, I guess. Yeah, these rotations are just I just don't understand, quite frankly. I think it was in the Atlanta game. He put on the bench and Scotty. So I think it was Scotty and Gradey. Who else? Olynyk was in the game. Ochai. There was one more that was in the game. I can't remember who it was.
It might have been Grady, because I know Grady and Ochai had a couple stints together, which I did like that.
I said Grady, but I can't remember who it was now. But anyway, so that bench unit, when they came on, I think they were, it might have been tied, it might have even been down, and they went up 10. And then they were rolling, they were doing well, and then boom, Darko takes out Gary, or he takes out Grady, and brings in Gary, who was shooting at that time like 2 of 12 from the field. Now, Gary shot 71% from three against Brooklyn. He had a great game, 9 of 12. So you put him back on or you leave him on when the guy is rolling. I don't understand when the guy is struggling. Let's put him back on when the game is on the line. Let's do that. I've never understood that concept. I know Darko's like, 6-minute mark, I take Scotty off. Scotty could have 20 points in 6 minutes. I got to take him off.
Yeah, and what ended up being a 2-point game.
Yeah, and I just don't understand the logic. Like Gary made a big three at the end, but now Scotty threw the double team and Gary was wide open. I mean, we all could have hit that shot wide open, I think. But anyways, I just don't like some of the rotations that he does. When a guy is rolling, leave him in. Leave him in if he's rolling. I don't understand. Especially at the end of the game, you're trying to win. He's the one that said, well, we're going to try for the play-in. Great. So try for the freaking play-in. It's not hard. The guys are rolling, leave them in. The guys that are not, take them out. There's always going to be there'll be another game for them to start rolling. This is not hard.
Hey man, I'm of the Chuck Daly philosophy, boy. We ride the hot hand, boy. It takes us home. You can imagine trying to do it, Vinny Johnson. Gosh, man, Vinny might have broke a couple clipboards on some folks. Guys, it's like what?
Yes.
I got 50 in the quarter. You're pulling me away. Was he crazy?
Yeah, I don't know what Larry Bird would have done had not Casey Jones had taken him out like an 86 or something like that. And Bird's 14 for 16. Oh, we're going to come out of the game now.
Like, oh my
Or lost his mind.
gosh. I don't know, man. They do things different these days. Oh, let's move on, man. They do things different.
Well, I'll add one final point to that. It's kind of an adjacent point, but we are getting some sort of indication of what is dependable and not, and also how what you can expect out of players' production. So, quickly in general, if he's going to be on one that night, most of it's going to come in the first half, right? He will go and just be, you know, shooting out of his mind, right? In a game that he shot 9 of 20, 6 of 11 from deep, right? He was on it. But then if you look deeper, his last I think 6 shots or whatever, he missed. And so it's like you can
Well,
kind of start seeing what is dependable
eh,
and not.
right, but that's got to do a little bit with with scouting in this case, and
That too.
and now
And
adjusting and
adjustments.
yeah, when they
Yes.
realize, oh, you know what, we forgot. Yeah, this guy here, maybe he should be shooting to his left or something for three.
But that's also it allows you, because we know that this organization moves slowly. It gives you enough data points, especially if it happens more consistently. It now gives them something to add to the spreadsheet, which I like, right? And to me, that's something that I think is good, because I do think I am seeing minor signs of this front office learning slightly,
Glacial.
slowly. Yes. Yes.
You
So
say, Quickly's issue is that Quickly always shoots right, which is odd for a right-hander. Yeah,
yes.
let you shoot. Like Lowry's notorious for shooting better going into his left. Most three-point shooters or most right-handed shooters are usually like that. Quickly's the odd thing where it's the other way around. And I think and it's something to watch for. Where now that he's a starter, yeah, he's an interesting. When it comes to scouting and getting shots for him, that's going to be an interesting thing to see what Darko does.
So yeah, I mean, in terms of the good, bad, the ugly, that's all I can think about. I don't know if there's anything else that you guys want to talk about. I know Ochai had a bounce back game offensively. Some people talked about Noara. Why did Noara start? And they wanted Bruce Brown. I think number one is the size. I mean, if you're gonna have Gary Trent in the starting lineup, having another guy that's like what Bruce Brown's 6'3", so
Yeah,
he's shorter than Gary, doesn't really make sense. I mean, Bruce Brown in a pinch as a luxury can guard like threes, sometimes odd times fours, but I would not want that on any sort of regular basis, like not even close. That's a bad move. And then Ochai, I'll also say like he's been good defensively, but again, I know people keep trying to compare him to, as an OG replacement. He just doesn't have the size that OG has. Now, I do think he's closer to being a Danny Green. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean Spurs Danny Green. I think, if you put him as a spot up threat, he can hit the open jumpers. He can attack, he can do a little bit of stuff here and there, but it's not anything that you're like, oh my gosh, I need to depend on this guy, which is fine, right? And you have 2 years to kind of see what you have with it. So if there's nothing else, I think that kind of wraps up this episode. We kind of covered the good, bad, and ugly. We will now just kind of quickly preview the week ahead. So we have, believe, 3 games this week. Or is it 4? No, it is 4 games this week. So our pizza party game is against Siakam, of course. Then we play the Mavs, we play the Warriors, and then we finish it off with Steve Clifford Hornets. So, now there is an interesting thing where people are now, and I hate the fact that basketball discourse has become this. Anytime one player is doing really well and another player has been out for a little bit, they're like, well, we should just trade that player. So you're hearing people say, oh, we should just trade LaMelo Ball and build around Brandon Ingram. It's like, can we just that's not how team building works. It's not always shuffling the decks, but different conversation for another day. What are you guys thinking in terms of your record for this upcoming week?
who are we playing again?
Pacers, Mavs, Warriors, and Hornets. Now, we did take care of business, is what I will say. That's how I will classify the past 2 games. We took
Is
care of
LaMelo
business.
back in this case? I haven't checked.
Yes.
Honestly, 0-4.
Ooh, okay, damn.
Um, At best 2-2, but likely 1-3.
Yeah. You know what? I will not be optimistic, and I'll go 1-3. I was thinking 2-2. It really does depend. There's a chance I think you can get the Pacers game because the Pacers have been weird with their lineups and injuries and stuff. So maybe you can get that game. Maybe you can get the Hornets game. I don't think you're going to get both. And then I think the Mavs are just now really rolling. So I don't think you're going to get the Mavs. And the Warriors are in the fight of their life trying to make their own play in. So yeah,
But Warriors are going to want payback. That's one thing.
that's the other thing too, because I think we whooped them
We
last time.
did whip a Sunday night game. Second thing is, Pacers are pretty much at full strength now at home. And they're starting to kind of get it together a little bit. And Halliburton's starting to ramp up his minutes back to 30 plus minutes a night. So this ain't kind of like in and out thing it was a week or so ago.
Well, also, I think Matherin didn't even play the last game.
No, Mather didn't play, nor did Miles Turner.
Nor Jalen Smith.
No Jalen Smith. Pretty much all them guys back. Yeah, guys, that's what it was. All right. So third thing, as you said, my Mavericks are starting to kind of play better. And last time I checked, I ain't seen no one on this team could check Luka or Kyrie. I wait to see those defensive stoppers for that. So that ain't working. And then the Charlotte situation, we've had trouble with Charlotte with no LaMelo Ball happen dudes this year.
We can't even handle Miles Bridges. So
right. So we have Bridges and Miller going off as they've been going off all year against us. Now with LaMelo, like we even had the big man in this case from Kentucky. He didn't play most of the games this year against us. I'm not sure if he's back. Williams. I don't know. Because he has not played against us this year. I don't think it's been Richards for the most part. So yeah, I don't feel like I said before, and I talked to many people on the spaces about this. I don't give the Raptors the benefit of the doubt. So that's my
no. They've taken care of business this past week. We'll see if they could do it again this week. But I think the key thing down the stretch to see how good of their odds that they can get if you are Team Convey or not. Those Brooklyn Nets games, because I think that we play Brooklyn 2 more times to end the season, if I'm not mistaken, or at least one additional time.
That's the one team that looks dead as a doornail. They have no interest in playing basketball. That's the one team I would say, okay, if the Raptors play them, I'll give me the Raptors.
Sorry, 2 more times. So yeah, we play them 2 more times, and we also play obviously the Wizards. So there's a couple of, I think 10 wins is what I was, 10, 11 wins is kind of what you're looking for to stay afloat in terms of conveying a pick. I think if they can get that, and it's possible. It's not going to be easy, but it's possible.
One more West Coast trip?
No, not really. There's a weird road trip where they go to Minnesota, then they go to the Milwaukee, but there's not really.
So we're done because I thought for some reason that game against Portland.
Well, we have the Suns. So coming up, we'll have the Suns, the Blazers, and the Nuggets.
Right, that's the road trip I think because I thought we hadn't played Portland yet. So, yeah, it's gonna get interesting. Yeah, Portland
will.
Portland might be a win.
Yeah, and we're talking guaranteed wins, and so yeah. Coach, any final thoughts?
I think this week actually is kind of important for their play-in seeds because it's not like you're playing dominant teams right now. I get it. Gold State's playing better, and I figured they would. The best team, I mean, Dallas and Indiana, I don't consider them the top of the West or the East. They're kind of in the middle of both of their conferences. I think Dallas and Indiana obviously have more talent than the Raptors, but these are kind of the games. Like if you are serious, you want to try to get into the play-in because you've dug yourself such a hole, more or less you got to win them. Dallas is at home in Toronto. You have to get that. Indiana, I'm probably not expecting them to beat them tomorrow night, as Beyond had said. Golden State, I know they're back and stuff like that. They're playing better, but still, you got to try to beat them at home. And the same with Charlotte.
Absolutely. As of today, we have the 7th best odds to win the lottery, up from 6. So I'm going to just end the episode on that. Hopefully, we will see where we end up for the rest of the season and even this week. Either way, whether you're team tank or not, hopefully the team does as you want them to do. With that being said, it's Basketball Rewind. Like, comment, subscribe. and tune in next week where we will go through, hopefully, another good, bad, and ugly week. Take care and peace.